أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. I hope you are okay. As I told you, I don't know about his halal. As I told you yesterday, we'll try today to have more time for you to comment or ask questions because this is the practical side. Yet, before entering straight into the practical side, what I want to do is to make it clear that with all what we said yesterday, the practical side should be understood within an overall vision, what we can call a world vision, a concept of man, and in fact, altogether, a cosmology. A cosmology is the very understanding of how do we look at the cosmos, at the universe, when we say La ilaha illallah. So it's very much coming from the centrality of a tawheed and how we have to look at the whole thing. Why am I saying this? Because once again, if you look at the way some fuqaha, when it comes to technicalities, by definition, if you only deal with the legal, if you only deal with the issues, the details, you end up trying to adapt, to try to find a way, but it's not going to be, and sometimes it's leading you astray from the overall vision. So you always have first to have this vision, to have this understanding, the concept of of God, of the creation and man. And I want to repeat this before, not to repeat, but to make it clear before we enter into the discussion on the different fields that we will have today. We'll start in a very simple way about things that I said yesterday about consumption and our relationship to the environment. And then later in the next session, we will talk about economy and medicine, and then also about psychology and arts. This will be the four fields that we are touching today. But once again, I will have much more introduction to the topics and discuss with you how do you see the issues in different fields. But now, what I want to start with is really this understanding of in which way we are dealing with contemporary issues. What are the challenges that we are facing? All what I said yesterday about sciences, fragmentation of knowledge, not clear goals, and questioning the ends, not only the means, all this is part of what I'm going to do now with you and what I'm trying to translate. So when you enter into these discussions, the starting point is this overall vision that you have. Saying La ilaha illallah, get it right. Saying La ilaha illallah is the axis around which everything is going to be constructed. And when I'm saying this, you live in the UK, you live in the West, and you know how much the postmodern ideology is working exactly on this starting point. By saying, no, there is no truth. And even this, look at what is happening in all the discussions that we have, people coming to you and saying something which is not exactly this. They would say, for example, and this is a central question to Muslims is, oh yes, it might be that there is one God, but the book that you have is a product of human intelligence. Once again, it's a way to touch the truth that you have, because why? Part of al-aqidah for us is the 6 pillars of faith, al-kitab kalamullah. So that's essential, is the starting point. You cannot enter into the discussion not having your foundations clear in your heart and in your mind and in your heart. So this is the connection with the truth as saying this is wal-haq, wal-kitabul haq. So it's coming from al-haq wa huwa al-haq. So this is the central thing. And this is why sometimes, when we deal with reformists, it's disturbing because they very often go to the practical side of reform, not starting with the principles of the foundation. And this is why it's very good to have some Salafi coming and say, if you don't start with Tawheed, we are going to be lost. And many reformists are lost because there is the central axis of everything, which is La ilaha illallah, which is the truth. And by saying this, I'm saying it's the truth as an act of faith. This is why we are not scientists, we are believers in something. We believe in it. So it's a matter of faith. It's not a matter of rationality. So anyone who is coming to you in rational terms, like in the debate I had in Cambridge with Dawkins saying, this is not scientific, the fact that scientifically he cannot say there is God or no God is putting him exactly on the same side of postulates. What in the philosophy is postulates is in Islam an act of faith. There is one God, this is what I believe. And you have no scientific means to prove that I'm wrong. As much as I don't have scientific means to prove that you are right or wrong. We don't have this. So it's an act of faith. So this is where we need to start with this. And this is the starting point of your cosmology. It's the way you look at the world and everything is going to be built. Now that you may have some doubt sometimes, that's jihad in nafs. That's your jihad, the jihad of faith. It happened even in the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, that some are asking questions. That's normal. This is not a scientific discussion. It's a spiritual discussion that you have with your own heart and with your own mind. And don't avoid this. Don't make it as to pretend to be a good Muslim. I'm not doubting. No, sometimes you doubt yourself and sometimes you are questioning. So the jihad with your heart is to go to getting this confidence and this trust that he is the truth and on him you rely. That's a permanent struggle. And especially when you live in the West, don't pretend that questions are not coming to your mind. Don't. But it's the way you tackle them which is essential, not the way you avoid them, which is smart. It's not smart to avoid questions. It's not. But it's the way you tackle them. Having said that, at the starting point, meaning Tawheed means what? It means something that it's straight away. Straight away. If I'm saying La ilaha illallah, I'm saying to myself and to the world, this life has a meaning. There is a meaning in my life. There is a meaning. It's not nonsense. It's not absurd. It's not irrational. It's not irrational. I cannot prove God rationally, but the meaning of life is rational. Even the fact that I'm saying there is one God is rational in the way I'm saying it's beyond my rationality. And what is beyond my rationality is rational, is not irrational. Get that? You don't? Why are you smiling? You didn't get it. If in a rational reasoning and a rational term, you are saying, I rationally acknowledge that my rationality has limits, is rational. Okay? It's not irrational. It's rational that I cannot, it's very rational when you go to somebody and say, you know what? I love him. I say, I cannot explain why. It's not irrational. It's rational that you cannot explain the reasons of your heart, which is what Blaise Pascal was saying. Your heart has its reasons, your reason cannot get. It's a well way of protecting your heart. By the way, my answer to this is your heart has its reason that your reason will acknowledge. This is the Islamic answer. At one point, what is coming from your heart, your rationality can get it by accepting the limits of its knowledge but acknowledging that there are things that are coming. You can feel it. There is, and by the way, this is something that you find in the Quran. The people who are denying the truth, the way it's put in the Quran is very strange. It's not only that they are not thinking with their mind, they are not thinking with their heart. لهم قلوب لا يفقهون بها. Al-fiqh, in fact, is deep knowledge. It's deep understanding. So, in fact, in our journey, the heart is getting knowledge. It's coming from where? From what I said yesterday. Al-fitra, the spark. So when you come back to the spark, to this spark, and you come back to the origin, there is an understanding that is coming from your heart. So sometimes you cannot explain this with your heart, with your mind, but when you just are praying, when you are fasting, in very specific spiritual disposition, you feel that you are close. You feel that it is it. You feel that the truth is there. You feel that there is a lifting spiritual process. You are not going to explain this with your mind. But you can have something which is a spiritual communion with your brothers and sisters. For example, the feeling that you have when you go through the supplication. That's not going to be reduced to a rational translation. But you can feel something. And this is where الرضا, it's only coming from God. So this is why when the people are telling you, you know, some are using this, لن ترضى عنك اليهود ولا النصارى حتى تتبع ملتهم. الرضا, it's deep satisfaction and communion with the other. So you are not going to be to get the satisfaction of the Jews and the Christians until you follow their religion. And some are using this by saying they are not loving you, they don't respect you. That's not what is said in the verse. The verse is something that you yourself are experiencing. When you are praying, what you feel with your brothers and sisters in Islam, it's not at all the same way, the respect that you can have towards Christians and Jews. It's not the same. Here, it's about communion and satisfaction. Here, it's about mutual respect. The only satisfaction that you are looking for is Allah's satisfaction. Read Allah. This is what you are. But as to getting from people who are not sharing your very specific way to talk to God, don't expect from them to have this satisfaction. Only expect from them mutual knowledge, meaning mutual respect. And this is what you are expected to do. You are not expected to go to a Christian gathering and to feel the same satisfaction. It's not going to happen for the Muslims, and you are not expecting this from the Jews and the Christians. They're not coming to your mosque and say, MashaAllah. No, they're not going to say MashaAllah. To start with, they are not going to say this. They are just going to, I respect. So be careful with the levels of your relationship from within al-Ummah, al-Islamiyya, in spiritual term. The Muslim community is about communion. So there is something coming with the community. You fast, you experience the pilgrimage, you pray together. This is rida, coming from the rida Allah. But here it's mutual respect and knowledge. So don't use a verse to transform the meaning of the verse by saying they are not going to love you. They are going to attack you. That's not what is said in other verses talking about Christians that are full of humility and there is mutual respect. Why is it that in the Quran they are called Ahl al-Kitab? So Ahl al-Kitab are going to reject you? No. And between you and them, in spiritual terms, it could be positive competition, which is what we have in the Quran. وَلَوْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَجَعَلَكُمْ أُمَّةً وَاحِدَةً فَاسْتَبِقُوا الْخَيْرَاتِ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ فِي مَا أَتَاكُمْ فَاسْتَبِقُوا الْخَيْرَاتِ. So you have to compete in good deeds. That's it. Respect and competition for the best. But communion, spiritual communion, that sometimes we have interfaith dialogue. They are all coming and they are praying together. You don't know what they are doing. No, that's not interfaith dialogue. Interfaith dialogue, you pray, everyone prays the way he or she wants to pray, and you respect one another, but I don't expect from anyone to have this spiritual communion with Al-Fatiha. And you with, anyway, you understand what I mean. But that's an important point, is the way some are distorting the very deep understanding of a verse to make it something which is a weapon against the others. which is not exactly what is in the verse here. It's deeper than that. Having said that, when I come to Al-Tawheed, it says your life has a meaning. And the meaning is exactly what we say when somebody passes away. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. I belong to him. I come from him. He is the source. I'm going back to him. Between this, I'm accountable. I'm a Khalifa. So he has the ownership of everything, even my body. And the Prophet was always saying, the one who has his soul in his hands, and this is a metaphor by saying, I belong to him, by the one who has, or to whom my soul belongs. So this point here is the starting point of a vision of the world, which is not only your life has a meaning, but the world, the creation, has a meaning. And the way you are going to come close to the meaning is knowing that you come back to him. Your accountability is going to be on ethical standard. What I said yesterday, you have to change yourself on the basis of values that were revealed to you through the Quran or given to you through your culture or thought about through your mind. Okay? So this is where you have your faithfulness to the path is to know the prohibition, to know the obligation, and to know what are the values that are going to help you to come to closer to the meaning of your life, which is to serve him. And what is the best way of serving him in the Islamic tradition? The best among you, خيركم أنفعكم للناس. The best among you is the one who is serving humanity the best way. In which terms? In ethical terms. Serving means on the name of the values that Allah brought or revealed to us as the path. 2/3 of the Quran is mainly about moral teachings. It's about morality. It's about ethics and the goals that you have to achieve. So this path, this journey is what we call Sharia. Okay? So, one God, my life has a meaning, there is a way, this is the path, how I'm going to do this, to implement the obligation, to resist the prohibition, and then to try to be positive and to be morally committed in this world. So this is the vision that I have. All this is about what? What I said, that we have a responsibility. By definition, if you are a human being in this cosmology, this concept of the world and your life, you are accountable. Mukallaf. Mukallaf means every one of you one day is going to be asked, what have you done with your mind? What have you done with your body? What have you done with your time? What have you done with your health? What have you done with your neighbor? What have you done with your society? What have you done in every single thing? So which is the very understanding. You remember this companion who just converted to Islam, and the Prophet ﷺ asked the companions that teach him the Quran, and he came to 2 verses. وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَى وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ شَرًّا يَرَى. So the one who is going to do an atom of good will see it. An atom of bad will see it. That's okay. I get that. I get that. This is the meaning of ihsan. Allahumma ja'alna nakhshaka ka'anna narak. Make us fear you, love you, as if we were seeing you, which is the highest level of ihsan. Which means what? Everything, it's about accountability. So everything, the way you are dealing with yourself, with your neighbor, with nature, with the environment, everything. Not, because, by the way, what we are saying here, it's very heavy. It's very heavy. And this came to the Prophet very, very, very soon. إِنَّا سَنُلْقِي عَلَيْكَ قَوْلًا ثَقِيلًا. We are going to bestow on you very heavy words. Your responsibility. He is Ar-Rahman first, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Every single chapter except one. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I start with God, in the name of God, the merciful, the most merciful, telling you are going to be unjust. You are going to be wrong. You are going to fail. You are going to try to be good, and you are going to succeed only, not because Allah is al-adl, because He's just, because He is ar-Rahman. He is the most merciful. So it means what? That you are accountable, but you need to get it right from the very beginning. Remain humble. Remain humble. You are in need of Him. That's a cosmology. It starts with what? La ilaha illallah. It's a call for humility and commitment. Which I say, I transform this by saying we need humble believers and ambitious believers. Ambitious not with arrogance, knowing that we rely on Him, because if He wants, everything is possible. Everything is possible. If you think, everything is possible. Really, literally, everything is possible if He wants. So you have to trust Him. But at the same time, be humble with your own self. From the big cosmology, it comes to a very clear understanding of who you are in the whole thing. So you have to be committed here. And then, with this, everything that you have to get in this process, based on your understanding of this in a spiritual way. So get me right. There is no way of being active if you are not spiritual. With all what I'm saying now. If you don't get what I'm saying now, what is the meaning of what you are doing? What is the very essence of your intentions in what you are doing? So the deep understanding of ar-ruhaniyya, kunu rabbaniyin, that to be imbibed with the presence of God, ar-ruhaniyya, tazkiyat an-nafs, is about what? You are going to go through the process of purifying yourself through your actions, through your commitment in this cosmology, this understanding. La ilaha illallah. I know how limited I am. I know how powerful He is. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. This is the meaning of it. So you know that all this is a construction that is based on the main in the main sources. And as I said, your goals are coming from there. And in every field, in every action, there should be a moral goal. And in fact, this is the way I would try to find in Arabic a translation. I'm saying this in the book. Do you have a translation in Arabic of spirituality? You don't. There is not a word that is translated what you have in English as spirituality. There are 3 words in Arabic. The first one is tazkiyah, purification. You have all this in the glossary. Tazkiyat an-nafs, purification of the self. Rabbani, Rabbaniyun, meaning being imbibed with Allah, God's presence. Kunu Rabbaniyin, as it is said in the Quran. And then Ruhani, which is to make the ruh in yourself being alive. But Ruhaniyat is not exactly spirituality here. And what is important in the Islamic understanding of this, it means there are 2 things that are going to protect what we call in English spirituality, and it's tazkiyat an-nafs. No way in Islam to be able to go through a purification of the self if on the path you are not implementing in your life the pillars of the visible side of Islam. In fact, no spirituality without religion, which is exactly the opposite of what you hear today. Be spiritual and forget about praying, forget about discipline, which is, once again, rubbish. Give me one spirituality, one teaching that is coming from all the spiritualities around the world, from Hinduism to Buddhism to Judaism, Christianity and Islam, and whatever which is not based on discipline is the starting point of a spiritual life. While you pray, while you fast, this is to be disciplined. I always repeat my own experience with the Dalai Lama when I was in India, waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, repeating the text and being very disciplined. People like him because during the day he smiles and say everything is easy. But during the night he is reciting. He has a discipline. And in our world today, it's very important not to come with a spirituality which is the opposite of this efficient life that we have with our work and under pressure. It's as if spirituality is the opposite of a stressful life. No. Spirituality has to do with disciplined life, whatever is stressful, your daily life. This is a way if you look at the whole thing. This is the starting point of how you are going to be committed here. And as I said, you are accountable. Now, this is also saying something about the way you have to deal with where lies the authority in your understanding of this cosmology. Of course, the final authority in everything which has to do with Islam, Arkan al-Islam, or Arkan al-Iman, or al-Aqidah, it's coming from God. And that is to be repeated. You know, can I ask you something? For all of you who are trying to be good Muslims, as we are all trying to be. You know what? In your life, instead of when you are demonstrating to go out and say, Allahu Akbar, and sometimes you have to say to people, please stop transforming Allahu Akbar into a political or a shouting slogan. In your life, whatever you are facing, whatever when you are facing any difficulty, just in you, Allahu Akbar. Just get it. Allahu Akbar. Meaning whatever are the plan, whatever thing, Allahu Akbar. Wallahu a'lam. You know, every time you write a fatwa, Allahu a'lam not goes best on many things. Which is, this is the way you look at the world. He's bigger than everything. He's higher than everything. That's deep. That's not just to shout at the people, whatever you do to us, Allahu Akbar, and you use it as a political slogan that sometimes by people here is completely misunderstood. I keep on repeating to people what was said to me. I said, these Muslims, they go for Palestine, they go in the street, Allahu Akbar, they are demonstrating in front of people of other faiths, and they think that they are going to be understood. When the people listening to them is, Allahu Akbar means kill them all. That's the way it's understood. Why are you saying this like that? Allahu Akbar is too much a deep message to be put in a situation where it's misunderstood. Like now, it is understood that all these extremists are using Allahu Akbar and say, he said Allahu Akbar. So he meaning that was a violent extremist Muslim. Okay, let me come quickly to the authority here, that in all this, within this cosmology, the final authority, or the first authority in everything that has to do with the moral teaching, the understanding of the world, the ownership of the world, the ownership of your being, what you are trying to do is God. And then you also have to look at the world the way it is, and he told us, Sunnat Allah. La tabdila fi sunnatillah. He's saying this word, it's at your disposal, and this word has an authority on you. And the authority on you is that it's a revelation as well. In fact, the second book, Al-Quran, is talking, and this is where we are lost because we have been following Orientalists in a way which is wrong. In fact, if you come back to the Islamic terminology and the Arabic terminology, the way the book is talking about the universe is completely different from what we are saying. In fact, the second revelation, the book, is talking about the first revelation, the universe, exactly in the same terms. In fact, the universe has to be read, and what you find in the universe are ayat, signs, which in fact is the very word of ayat in the Quran, not verses. The English translation of ayat is not verses. This is coming from the Bible, versification. This is why we speak about verse. But in fact, it's a mirroring reality. سَنُرِيهِمْ آيَاتِنَا فِي الْآفَاقِ وَفِي أَنفُسِهِمْ through وهذا من القرآن مليء بالآيات. So it's ayat everywhere. So it's a cosmology. This is what you find in the deepest Hindu and Buddhist tradition, saying the microcosm and the macrocosm are mirroring. That's exactly what you have in the Islam. But if we are coming with ayat here, verses here, and ayat there, you are participating to something which is called the disenchantment of the world. It cannot be so. When the people are saying, Dawkins was looking at me once and say, you still believe in angels? Yes, my dear. So it's as if, scientific mind cannot think that angels... Yes, when I enter home, my cosmology is coming with me within that home and says, Salamu alaykum wa rahmatullah. It seems that nobody is there and still there is a presence. Get it or not, it's not rational, but it's not irrational. But you understand what I mean? It's everywhere. And this is something which is your commitment, is why when apparently there is nobody, there is still something that's coming from you. So your authority is also coming from the book, and then the way you are going to deal with the authority of the world that you have to study. Siru fil ard wanzuru. So you have to travel around the world and look at things. You have to take from history, you have to take from the natural law, you have to take from history, you have to take from cultures, you have to learn. So there is an authority here in your learning. This is why وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَعَرَفُوا. We made you tribes and nations for you to know each other, meaning what? You have to learn from others. So this is why he wanted from the very beginning this diversity. To the point that he's saying the authority of diversity in your mind is that if there were no diversity in the world would have been corrupt. وَلَوْلَا دَفْعُ اللَّهِ النَّاسِ بَعْضَهُمْ بِبَعْضٍ لَفَسَدَتِ الْأَرْضِ. And in another verse, لَهُدِّمَتْ صَوَامِعُ وَبِيَعٌ وَصَلَوَاتٌ وَمَسَاجِدُ يُذْكَرُ فِيهَا اسْمُ اللَّهِ كَثِيرًا. So even if the same verse is saying that even religions would have been destroyed. So the point for us is to get this, that there is an authority. So this is why I remember, once again, my father, rahimahullah, once he told me this like this, in between two doors, he said, you know what? There is no tolerance in Islam. I said, what? Sorry? There is no tolerance? And then I came back to him, and he explained to me and said, no, tolerance is not enough. And then I started studying and say, that's exactly the point. You don't come to somebody and say, you know what? I tolerate you. I suffer your presence. Which is tolerant. Toleration means this. I suffer, and I am in a position of authority. Might be that, there is a... So this is why the treatise of tolerance coming from the Western tradition is to be understood in such a way. But in Islam, if this is God's will, you have only one thing to do, to accept and to respect. And then you respect the other, you don't tolerate them. So it means it's another vision. So you have to deal. Pluralism has an authority on you. Diversity is God's will. You cannot just... So this is a cosmology. So you come in this country, you are in Britain, and you see a diversity of people. Even if you are a majority or in minority, the only way you have to deal with it is mutual respect through mutual knowledge. This is a way of life. And it's challenging, it's difficult, but no choice. And you are going to be accountable. How you treated the neighbor, Muslims or people of other faiths. What have you done with them? Based on this is a duty, it's not a matter of choice. You have to deal with it. So the authority is coming from God, and then it's coming from its creation. The world has an authority. So also when, for example, you go to the medical doctor, you know that he has a professional authority because in his field there are rules and knowledge that he's taking from its subject matter. So you have to deal with this. So once again, you have to acknowledge that with this cosmology, there is the final authority in moral terms, and there are authorities in scholarly terms that you have to take. And this is where you need to get this. And you don't need to put Islamic everywhere, but any authority coming from the understanding of the world is per se Islamic. Why are you so obsessed with putting Islamic everywhere? Yes, it's Islamic for a medical doctor to understand how the body works. Because the body is Allah's creation, isn't it? So we don't have to put Islamic everywhere because, in fact, it's just showing how we are experiencing an inferiority complex. We are so scared of not being enough Islamic that we put Islamic everywhere in our slogans. So here, this authority, it's important also. And with this Allah, at-Tawheed, the moral authority that is coming from the scriptural sources, our rationality, our way of dealing with the two texts, the two revelations, and then at the same time trying here to understand that we have to do what with all this, what I said yesterday, reform the self and reform the world. And here there is something which is essential. Many of the Muslims around the world, when they are speaking about Jews, and by the way, let us start this clearly. Anti-Semitism is anti-Islamic. To be against the state of Israel and its policy, that's the only right way to be. That's it. But it has nothing to do with anti-Semitism. Even if, we have, you heard about Bernard-Henri Lévy, the one who was liberating Libya because he loved them so much. It's telling us that it has nothing to do with Israeli policy. Anyway, he just wrote a book about the spirit of Judaism, and he's saying, the new type of anti-Semitism is anti-Zionism. So if you criticize Israel, it means that deep down you are anti-Semite. We don't buy this, and we have to struggle against this by saying anti-Semitism is unacceptable. Many scholars are saying, and they are repeating something which is old, is that there is something in Judaism which is based on the chosen people. And some, yes, in the Orthodox tradition are speaking about we are the chosen people. And if you come in the Quran, فَضَّلَكُمْ عَلَى الْعَالَمِينَ Bani Israel. You have been chosen. It's in the Quran. So it might be that they are repeating what is in the Quran. Now you come to some Muslims, and what are they saying? They are saying, look at them, they think that they are the chosen people. And in the Quran, yes, but this was in the past. Who are the chosen people today? Us. Of course. And we have the proof. Which is كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر وتؤمنون بالله. كنتم خير أمة. You are the best community. So, and what you are criticizing there, you are repeating it for yourself, which in fact is completely wrong. The way we translate the ayah and we understand the ayah, it's not this. We are not the best community by blood or only by reference to Islam. تَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ in as much as, so it's conditional, you promote the good and resist the bad. It's conditional. So the election of Bani Israel was a moral election, not a racial or blood election, not intrinsically, but morally. You are a chosen community as long as you behave in moral, according to moral standards. And look at this, to the point that the perception that you are the best community is coming in the verse through the way people are looking at you, not the way Allah knows about you. Because He knows that you believe. So why is تَأْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ coming at the end of the verse? Because He's not talking about this. It's talking about the moral condition for you to be the best. You should be perceived as تَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَتَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنكَرِ وَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ. This is hidden. This is Allah's secret. But what is seen by the people is that you are promoting the right and resisting promoting the right and resisting the bad. And what it means here, what other verse is leading us to this in our cosmology, our understanding of our responsibility within humanity, is the other one. وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. We made you the nation of the middle path. لِتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ. What you are expected to be, it's witnesses before people. To the truth, to your message. To your message, you be witness. This is why now I'm calling the world. You know, you were talking yesterday about, do we have to speak about Muslim majority countries or Muslim minorities? What I said in 90s when I was talking about our situation in the world, the global world, is now the world is Dar al-Shahada, not Dar al-Islam. And Dar al-Shahada is the space, the global space, where we have to bear witness to the truth before human beings, even before Muslim fellow Muslims. So Shahada is the very status. But what means Shahada is the way you are perceived. We are witness. So this is why when I meet a Jew with a Jew or with a Christian, I say, you know what? The only thing that I'm expecting from you is for you to be a witness of your principles. Be a witness. Show me what faith is doing with you. Don't try to convert me. And we don't have, you know, some are entering into interfaith dialogue by counting how many are going to convert. That's just completely wrong. What you have to be, the one that you have to be within the interfaith dialogue is the witness. In the way you speak, in the way, and this is why in the Quran, ud'u ila sabili rabbik bil hikmah, with wisdom. وَالْمَوْعِظَةِ الْحَسَنَةِ, the best exhortation. وَجَادِلْهُمْ بِالَّتِي, speak the best way. This is the way you behave. This is to be a witness. So what I'm saying here, in the world, the best community is the more morally committed. There is no election. You are not better because you are Muslim. You are better when you are the better Muslim you can be. So this is why I'm saying to Muslims, even in the UK, please stop talking about Islam and be better Muslims. Don't use the, you know, they are going to, we are falling into the trap of this discourse about Islam, about Islam. The only thing which is going to change is for us to be better Muslims in the way we understand to be witnesses. This is coming from the cosmology. I want you to understand that everything is connected in the big picture here before we come to the practical thing, and the practical thing should be dealt with. When did I? Oh, okay, that's good. I'm in my time. So it's conditional. Now, last thing that you have within this cosmology, which is important, is many things came from Al-Quran Al-Kareem. Many things that we have are in the Hadith. And still, there is a space here which you have to get it, because very often when we speak about Islam, as I said yesterday, it's about submission and everything. It's as if everything gets set and done. In fact, Islam is not about this. The moral orientation is there. The principles are there. Your accountability is known. What you have to do and what you have to be in the world as witnesses is known. The goals are known. And still, there is something that you have which is special in the universe, which is going to be translated by the word that we know, and we very often use it in a very defensive or only legal dimension, because the fuqaha took it and created it, and it's a problem. It's a very important notion, which you have to take time to deal with it, which is now the 15th notion that I have been studying here. I counted them yesterday, so 15. If you don't have 15, you are not following. That's not good. And plus all what you have in the book. This notion is saying what? It's saying that the text came to you, everything is in the Quran. Nothing is missing in the Quran. We agree on that. Nothing is missing in the Quran as to the principles, not as to the detailed answer. So you need to have to deal with the detailed answer. And the detailed answer is that Allah, God, in the Quran, sends some verses that are open for interpretation. Okay? That you have to look. Meaning what? It could be that at one point you understood something and later you're going to understand something else because new knowledge are giving you another understanding. بَلَا قَادِرِينَ عَلَىٰ أَن نُسَوِّيَ بَنَانَا. This is a verse where Allah is saying, am I not able to come back to you with your all creation? I'm able. I'm even able to come with your finger, the tip of your finger. In the 7th century, the tip of the finger meant it's small. He can come with this. And now with new scientific knowledge, it's saying something that the Americans and all the intelligences know. No one has the same. I'm going to come with you here. قادرين على أن نسوي بنانا. So what was understood in the 7th century is not the same as what we are understanding now. He's coming with your singularity, you, nobody else. He's coming for your fingerprint. So we didn't know the fingerprint at that time. So the more we come, we have verses that are open for interpretation, that we are going to get a better understanding. Even, for example, in the astrophysical world, الشمس والقمر بحسبان, to the point now that they are able to take picture of the hilal. How do you call this in English? Crescent. You can take now a picture with the new technology that is telling you exactly when the month is starting. I know that there is a big discussion among scholars. Should it be with our eyes or could it be with technology? But now we know that this is الشمس والقمر بحسبان means very, very precise calculation. بحسبان, the morphology of the word here, it's very precise. And we know that it's true now. So we are discovering. So the Quran is open for interpretation in some of the verses. Some of the verses are talking about the world, but also some of the verses are open for interpretation when it comes to rulings. So it's open. And on some very specific issues, the Quran is silent. And the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ is saying, وَسَكَتَ عَنْ أَشْيَاءَ رَحْمَةً بِكُمْ بِغَيْرِ نِسْيَانٍ. He kept quiet on some issues, not out of forgetfulness, but out of mercy. My silence is your freedom. This is what Allah is telling us. His silence is going to be our freedom. But be careful. Our freedom was understood by the scholars. It came also in the legal field by what the Maliki were talking about by saying al-masalih al-mursala. So it's the public interest left to human beings by the silence that is coming from God. And very often al-masalih al-mursala is defined by scholars, the fuqaha, in English, unrestrictive. Public, unrestricted. And I think that this is wrong. It's not unrestricted. There is no legal frame, but there is an ethical orientation. So in fact, you have to come back in Islam when you are trying to find the right fatwa to understand the moral orientation. There is nothing left in our book with no moral orientation. So you need to get the final goal, which is the ethical goal, and then you are going to find the legal. But you need to have an ethical orientation. Everything is about ethical orientation. Everything in the Quran is telling us about all the ethical orientation, but he's not giving us the legal framework, how we are going to translate. This work that you have to do from the ethical teaching, the morality that you find in the Quran, or the rules that you find in the world, to try to respect the world in an ethical way. What is it called? It's called ijtihad. Ijtihad. This notion is central. And this is where when you have this cosmological understanding, you understand that ijtihad is the way you are going to use your reasoning, your mind, in getting the goals, not only in the legal. The fuqaha took ijtihad as a legal instrument. That's fine. But ijtihad is bigger than that. Ijtihad is about how are you going to make the legal part of the path. So ijtihad is how am I going to remain faithful to Allah's teachings on the past using my mind, my heart, and all the knowledges. So there is ijtihad everywhere. So it's not only ijtihad with the texts, it's ijtihad with the environment, and it's ijtihad on all the sciences. If we reduce ijtihad into the legal, you know what you are going to do? Exactly what I was criticizing in radical reform by saying if ijtihad is a legal mean, you are reducing ijtihad to something which is an adaptational tool to the world, which is exactly what jurisprudence is all about. The world is changing, and then you come with an ijtihad trying to find the new rules or legal framework because the world is changing, which is not ijtihad that we are talking about. El-khilafa fil ard means a bigger, deeper, wider ijtihad. How am I going to rely on the sources, know my responsibility, and try to achieve the goal? So it's not about adapting, it's about changing, transforming, and getting the final goals. So ijtihad is huge. It's a philosophical concept. It's a philosophical concept. It's a scientific concept, and it's a legal concept. If you reduce it to a legal concept, you are coming with al-mustalah, which is the specialized way of dealing with this word in the legal framework. By the way, in our center, CILE, what we are doing this year in Grenada, we have a summer school 1 week every year. This year, it's about creative ijtihad. It's 5 days where we are stressing and working in May on classes where we are going to deal with ijtihad as a notion, understanding this in every field. So, because this is central. I'm working in the center with some of the scholars. We have the same, vision that we have to move, and then we came to the discussion on ijtihad. We realized we don't have the same, so we had a critical discussion within, and it's critical here to have this. But what I want you to understand is this: why? Because in every field that we are going to work, if you don't put ijtihad within the overall understanding, you are reducing it here in something which is a reactive tool to the way the world is. So, as I told you yesterday, this cosmology is helping us to be active, a force of proposal, not reactive, and defending ourselves from the dominant culture, but having something to express. This means 2 things here. In the way we look at the world, and this is why in the book Radical Reform, I put together environment and economy. And I will come to economy later. But when you deal with this understanding, you understand that with this cosmology, you have no choice but to know and to implement the vision that is coming from the Quran and coming from all our prophetic traditions, that environment, this universe, has to be respected because this is the very creation of God, and this is a revelation. And you have to respect environment in something which is not the way we have ecology today. What is, this is where I want you to understand what I mean. I'm dealing with people in green parties, in environmental organizations, and what they are doing is very good. It is very important. But the way they arrive at it very often is because we are facing catastrophes, global warming. So because there is a problem, we raise the issue. So the principle is coming from the potential risk. What we have to do as Muslims, and we are not the only religion, and we are not the only spirituality, it's in fact environment is the starting point of our thinking, not the final resistance to catastrophe. So it's an ecology beyond ecology. It's an ecology which is rooted in your principles. When you see nature, the way you love God will be seen by the way you respect nature. And Malik Badri, when he was writing, and by the way, if you haven't read that book, read that book on contemplation. That in fact, the way you look at nature and the environment is telling a lot about the way you have your connection with Allah. The Prophet ﷺ, and I promise to myself that you will find this verse in every single book that I wrote. And I was faithful to this promise except from one book. It was not really fitting the Arab awakening. Anyway. إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار لآيات لأولي الألباب. In the creation of the earth and the heaven, in the alternation of night and day, there are signs for those who are full of insight. And he was crying when he got that. Meaning that it's a spiritual commitment to respect environment for the Muslims. Why is it that today we don't speak about global warming? We are not there in anything which has to do with ecological discussion. Muslims are completely disappearing. No force of proposal, no discourse. It's as if it's secondary. While in fact, if you are serious with Allah, the way you treat nature, to the point that ethics of war, he's sending Usama, the Prophet ﷺ, and then this was repeated by Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, telling him, you don't touch women, you don't touch children, you don't touch religious people, you don't touch nature. You don't touch nature. If you are going to destroy, and then you go to Pakistan and say, you know what, there is something which is called Islamic nuclear bomb. Okay, try to be consistent with this. How are you going to use it? Is it possible? Do you have something in Islam which is collateral damages? Not only human collateral damages, but natural damages. We are talking about this. It's as deep as that. This is the way you show your spirituality. It's the way you respect nature. Environment is the starting point of your relationship because this is a revelation. This is a gift. Are you going to destroy the gift? Are you going? So your neglectfulness towards God start with the way you are with nature, with the way you are in the way your consumption. How are you going to deal with this? And for us Muslims, it's secondary. Let us talk about the serious things. It's taking over power, the state, politics, money, economics. So we are doing exactly the same. We are colonized, and our priority are put by the surrounding world, not our message. We are not setting the priority. And this is why I'm always saying, be careful. One of the power of the dominant is to ask you the questions, and you are trapped into the questions. So the better way is question the question. Question, why am I asking this question? But you have to be quite smart in doing this. From where you are to set your priority. So, and this has to do with the cosmology, a sense of the universe. When the people are saying scientific, the postmodern, it's all about, disenchantment and no, it cannot be like this for us. It cannot be. Wherever you go, I was just coming and I was looking at the beautiful landscape. I just took a picture and said, I'm sorry to tell you this, it was just more beautiful than what I have here. I'm talking about the venue. But sometimes you are caught with things. It's just you just when you are neglectful. Why do you? When I was in northern Mali, I was with the Tuareg. Some were Muslims and others, waking up just before sunrise, And the way they were praying, waiting for the sun to come and touching the sand. You know, this relationship to nature, is this not the spiritual things that we are talking about in your daily life? We live in the UK. What is your relationship to nature? What is your relationship to environment? What is your relationship with the other revelation, which is as important as the second revelation, which is the world, which is the environment? Don't we have to be at the forefront of this concern about you are destroying God's gifts? Is it not essential? And not with what we have in mind sometimes. It's a good way to be accepted by the people. They will like it. Because some of the people are inviting you and they want you to be liked by the non-Muslims. No, I'm talking about our priority here. Because when you come with this, you will see that in all the fields, this is the relationship you have with the universe that is going to have an impact. In all the fields, in medicine, in psychology, in art, in all the fields. Tell me how you deal with nature, with the universe. I will see how you deal with science, how you deal with psychology, how you deal with economics, how you deal with politics. It's there. The starting point is there. Tell me how you deal with the principles. I will know how you deal with the details. At the end of the day, political power is more a detail than thanking God through the way you deal with the creation and yourself. If you are really spiritual, if you are really committed. So this also, it's important to the point, and I will end with this, that this has an impact on consumption. Because what I have been saying now is that Allah, and what we are saying here, is be careful. He gave you all this to respect the being of nature, not to transform nature into havings. The capitalist system is transforming everything into havings. It's yours, take it. No, it's a being. There is an essence in it. So the very essence of conception here has to do with the way you define the universe around. If it's only matters or materialism, you can't transform this into havings. And then it's your authority. No. If there is a being over there, if there are signs over there, the way you are going to deal with it is be careful. It's life. Animals. Nature, it's life, it's being. It's not only havings. It's not because you have the intelligence that you can transform the beings created by God into havings destroyed by your intelligence and your arrogance and to spread the corruption which was mentioned in the Quran from the very beginning. It's because you look at the world as your property and not with fellow beings and life around that you are going to end into this, which is what? What am I talking about here? It's what we call disenchantment. It's rationalism. It's materialism. Materialism is a very deep ideology. And the problem is when Muslims are talking about their spiritual life in very materialistic way. This is what? This is shirk. And this is not khafi. It's very visible. Okay? So this is the starting point. So this is I want to start the practical discussion with this. It's very practical what I'm saying. It's in your daily life. It's the way you deal with everything. It's the way you look at things. It's the way you look at people. Because at the end, if the legal and the power is essential, you look at somebody, you see that he or she is doing wrong, and you end up reducing him or her to what he does or not, and not who he is. That's exactly the same logic. It's the same. It's the way you look at things that we need also to come to this understanding. So I'll stop here for the first part, questions, and then I promise in the next sessions there will be a shorter introduction, but I wanted to start with this one, which is essential. And once again, it's very practical.